Britain is a nation adrift in a sea of political promises, broken one by one. Tonight, we expose the reality of a country that has lost control of its own borders and a government that has resorted to the most desperate measure of all, calling in the army. Good evening. You have just joined Alert View, and we are not here to deliver pleasantries. What is happening on our shores is a national scandal, an utter shambles that has moved beyond mere politics and into the realm of a national emergency. The single most shocking truth is this: the British armed forces are now being deployed to manage a civilian crisis, a crisis of mass immigration that our elected leaders first created, then denied, and are now utterly failing to solve.
It is frankly a stunning indictment of the state we are in, David, when soldiers, trained to face down our nation's enemies, are reduced to acting as quartermasters for an immigration system in total collapse. You know that the government has failed on the most fundamental level. They are scrambling, desperately seeking space in disused barracks, condemned care homes and decrepit tower blocks. And the official line from number 10, they have the gall to call this restoring order.
Restoring order is a phrase so detached from reality it borders on the surreal. It is the political equivalent of putting a fresh coat of paint on a house that is structurally collapsing. And to signal this supposed new dawn of competence, their first act was one of pure panicked desperation. They took out their own Home Secretary. Yvette Cooper, the woman they sold to the public as the tough, no-nonsense Iron Lady of immigration, has been unceremoniously jettisoned.
And one has to wonder about the timing of that, David. It speaks volumes. To remove your Home Secretary within the first year is a catastrophic admission of failure. There must have been internal polling, perhaps some devastating focus group data that landed on the Prime Minister's desk, showing that the public simply was not buying the narrative anymore. The numbers were undeniable, record-breaking surges in channel crossings under her watch, and so Yvette Cooper became the sacrificial lamb.
It's a classic Westminster playbook move. The policy is in flames, so you push the minister into the fire and hope the public is distracted by the smoke. Her replacement, Shabana Mahmood, is now handed this poison chalice. We are told she has a good track record with the prison service, which is almost a dark joke in itself. Managing prisons is about containment after the law has been broken. Managing a nation's borders is about preventing the system from breaking in the first place. It is a completely different skill set, and her appointment feels less like a strategic choice and more like pulling a random name out of a hat.
And this is all happening under the government's new mantra of going up a gear. But let's be perfectly clear what that truly means. The Defence Secretary, John Healey, all but conceded that the Home Office is a failed entity. His description of an all-of-government effort is the coded language for a Category 1 emergency. The ship of state has a gaping hole in the hull, and they are now calling on every single department to come aboard with buckets.
And while they bail out the water, the British taxpayer is footing an astronomical bill. Let's talk about the cost of this chaos: £5.7 million. That is not the weekly or monthly cost. That is the cost for a single day to house migrants in hotels. Over a year, that is more than £2 billion. That is the cost of building 8 state-of-the-art hospitals. It is the annual salary for over 60,000 new nurses. Instead, it is being poured into a black hole of government incompetence.
And the so-called solutions are an insult to the nation's intelligence, moving people from hotels, which are at least habitable, into military barracks and, as was even admitted, potentially industrial warehouses, is a policy born of pure desperation. It solves nothing. It is a grotesque spectacle. A leading global economy contemplating the use of vast, soulless sheds to process human beings. How do you think that looks on the international stage? It screams of a country that is overwhelmed and has lost its way.
And it is not just an image problem, it is a social contract problem. While the government fumbles, Ordinary communities are at the breaking point. We have seen the footage and spoken to the people. More than 1,000 migrants have arrived on a single day. That is the population of a small village arriving unvetted on our shores every 24 hours. And the people in these coastal towns who dare to voice their concern, who see their local schools oversubscribed and their GP surgeries completely overwhelmed, they are dismissed by the establishment as a troublesome fringe.
They are not a fringe, David. They are the canary in the coal mine. They are the ones experiencing the direct consequences of this failed policy. The protests we have seen are not manufactured outrage. They are a primal scream from the heart of communities who feel ignored, betrayed, and taken for granted. When ordinary mothers and fathers are taking to the streets with placards, it is a sign that the very fabric of consent between the government and the governed is tearing.
And while all this unfolds, the political class in Westminster engages in the most pathetic and cynical blame game. The Conservative Party, the very architects of so much of this crisis, had the audacity to accuse Reform UK of copying their policies. The sheer unmitigated cheek of it. This from the party that burned through hundreds of millions of pounds on the Rwanda scheme, a policy so legally and logistically inept that it became a global laughingstock without ever achieving a single deportation.
It truly beggars belief. They are chuntering about the specifics of Reform's plan for modular steel structures as if that is somehow morally inferior to their own legacy of failure. At the end of the day, a barracks, a warehouse, or a steel container, it's all just window dressing on the same fundamental truth. Not a single one of them has a credible long-term solution. They are simply arguing over the brand of sticking plaster to put on a wound that requires major surgery.
And this debate is now morphing into something far deeper, something that politicians are terrified to address directly, a crisis of national identity. The conversation is no longer just about logistics and numbers. It's about culture, security, and the very character of this country. When the political class cannot or will not control who comes into the nation, it is a profound statement of impotence. It suggests a country that has lost the will to define itself.
Indeed, and that is why Keir Starmer's robotic assurances of restoring order ring so profoundly hollow. You cannot restore order with a cabinet reshuffle, you cannot restore it with a focus group slogan, and you most certainly cannot restore it by effectively subcontracting your border security to the military. This is a dangerous precedent, a blurring of the lines between military and civilian roles that should worry every single one of us.
So that is the grim reality of Britain today. A nation spending billions on a crisis it can't contain. A government whose flagship policy is to move the problem from a hotel into a shed. A political class engaged in a circular firing squad of blame. And overseeing it all, the ever-present, ever-growing bill. £5.7 million ticking over every sunrise, every sunset. Keir Starmer says he's going up a gear, but when your vehicle is out of fuel and heading towards a cliff, shifting gears is a meaningless gesture. The crash is coming, the only question is how bad it will be. The crisis is undeniable, but the question remains, is this sheer incompetence or is it a deliberate, managed decline of our national sovereignty? Can this border crisis ever be truly solved by the current political class in Westminster?
Let us know what you think down in the comments section below. We read them all and your perspective is crucial.
And if you believe in journalism that holds power to account and gets to the unfiltered truth, make sure you hit that subscribe button for alert view and ring that notification bell. You won't want to miss what is coming next. Thank you for joining us.